but she loved my best friend too. I remember how it hurt me when I found out things to see. Baby, it's just been too long. Maybe I got a bad memory. Can't remember. I got a bad memory. What I don't remember can't hurt me. I got a bad memory. And it helped me to keep my sanity. Bad memory. I could say I might remember if we could meet and talk. You give me direction, I will try not to get lost. In case I don't make it, don't take it personally. I'll try real hard to find you, but you know I got a bad memory. Don't take it personally, baby. I got a bad memory. What I don't remember can't hurt me. I got a bad memory. And it helps me to keep my sanity. I got a bad memory. What I don't remember can't hurt me. Oh, bad memory. And it helps me to keep my sanity.
See, baby, see what you have done, Lord and Mama. No need to worry. See, baby, see what you have done. Yes, you told me a lie. Now your man have come. That man you got don't love you. Yes, he told me so, Lord and Mama. No need to worry, your man don't love you. Yes, he told me so. He just only jiving you, baby. He in love with the girl next door. No need to worry, I love your teasing and the way you carry on. Yes, you told me a lie, little girl, you know that's wrong.
Council is back in session. Madam Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco. Here. Dingfelder.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Here. Miranda.
Here.
And Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Ms. Shelby, we're gonna go to item number 52.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Unless the city attorney feels that it's better to do item number 52 first, I think number 52 will, in some form or fashion, resolve itself if you take care of the one that is, or the part of 52 that is on your addendum. Right, but I think as separate items, to take the item on the addendum as it's laid out first, which is referred to in item 52 from the memorandum from the city attorney's office, I think that'll clear up the other issue after you discuss the items that you're facing and asking for decision points on from the city attorney.
City Attorney, ready?
I don't know which item we're getting to.
The CRB ordinance.
So,
I know where the ordinance itself.
Well, the topic.
Okay.
It's certainly the item that,
Yeah, let's do it.
The walk-on agenda item. Right?
yes.
Fine. Is the mic on, Jim?
Mr. Chair.
you're recognized,
I
sir.
just had a lot of complaints from the public this week. I didn't remember that it was on the agenda until people started calling me, and they asked me where it was, why it wasn't on the agenda, and where the information was. And I think it popped up yesterday somewhere.
The two stakeholders, no, it wasn't yesterday, it was Monday, and the two stakeholders that have been involved in this from the outset, the ACLU and the PBA, the ACLU emailed Mr. Shelby and I 2 times
That's fine, but
before this hearing to say, it's coming in front of the city council on May 20th, can we have a copy of it?
there are a lot of people in the public that are interested in this topic that
Okay.
are not just the key stakeholders. So I'm not criticizing anybody, but I think that on important big issues like this, it makes it look like we're hiding something if we don't get the drafts out early enough for the public to give us
Well,
feedback.
let's talk about that specific issue, because I know I briefed many of you and told you that this would be the 6th time that we were discussing the topic of the CRB. Actually, I was wrong. It's the 7th time. And I'm going to go through the sequence of events because it's been a long year, and the way that I think it's important how the different changes evolved. So it first started in June 4th when it was one of your first meetings down at the convention center. And you had quite a
Just
few
a point
people
of
there.
order. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Legal, you recognize.
Okay. We've all been here through all this. I don't think we need a recap.
Well, do
We've
you
all-
remember
let
what
me-
meeting?
Let me finish. I have
One
a
more,
point of
one
order.
more.
I have the floor.
Mr. you recognize.
Thank you. We've all been here through all this. I don't believe we need a recap. I believe that there were several motions that were on the floor directing you, as our city attorney, to draft the ordinance. You provided that ordinance, okay? I'd love to vote on it. I don't know why we need to rehash ancient history and make this go even longer. And if there's a legal reason that we need to do that, then you're the city attorney and you need to tell us.
Okay,
A legal reason.
I will. I will.
You may proceed, Ms. Grimes. Let me say this before we even get into it. We all work for the people. This is a tough subject, and we all must understand that. We have to let our emotions and differences go to the side and deal with the issue at hand. So I want to make sure going forward, we all understand that, and I'm going to tell the public, I'm going to tell the ACLU, I'm going to tell the union, tell the administration, and this council here. At the end of the day today, hopefully the decision will be rendered. It may not be perfect. It may not benefit one group. It may not benefit another group. It may be a compromise to both groups. But at the end of the day, We work for the people, and we will do so and conduct ourselves in a manner that the people understand, and we get the information out to everyone. So with that, Ms. Grimes, you may continue.
Thank you. Shall I comply with Mr. Dingfelder's directive?
No,
or
it's your,
should I
you're
do the
city
recap?
attorney. I'm going to give you that latitude. You're the city attorney. You make your
Okay.
presentation.
And I don't want to take any more time than necessary. I just thought it was important to talk about the sequence and some of the motions that were made earlier. So in June, you basically directed us, actually it was Councilman Goods, to review the hiring process and have the CRB participate in the interview process. You also asked us to look at the use of force policy. And we were supposed to come back on July 16th and report back to you. In between that time, in addition to those changes, the mayor also asked us to put together a CRB reform proposal. We were prepared to bring you that on July 16th, and if you recall, that meeting was canceled because of the spike in coronavirus. And so that wasn't done. It was done July 30th instead, and that was quite a lengthy meeting. And even though you considered all the changes you requested that we make and all the changes that were proposed by the administration, in addition to that, you made several other changes, first of which was important, and that's when the city council made a motion that the city council be able to appoint the majority of the members of the CRB. You also asked me to look at subpoena power, independent counsel, and independent staff, and if those could not be accommodated, to submit a memorandum of law. You asked that outside leaders be put on the CRB, community leaders, and you asked for annual reporting. You asked for community meetings in each of the districts. At the September 24th workshop, when it next came back, I don't know if you recall, it was about a 5.5-hour meeting that day. And the draft included the 551 board appointment proposal. So that was back in September. It was the 5 by city council, 5 by the mayor, and 1 NAACP to be appointed by city council. We had quite a lengthy, as I said, workshop. You had both comments from the PBA. You had also a lot of comments from the ACLU. And I've been working, as I committed to Mr. Carlson, collaboratively with the ACLU, exchanging information with them every step of the way, giving them drafts, letting them know when the hearings were coming up. They submitted a letter that had 10 different requests in it, and the PBA also had submitted some requests for changes. You asked us to come back to consider the PBA's comments and the ACLU's comments, and to come back on November 19th. That draft on November 19th included what I'll call the compromise independent outside counsel option, where if there was a conflict of interest as determined by city or state ethics laws or the Florida bar rules, that the city, as determined by the city attorney, that I would have to hire outside counsel to represent the CRB with respect to that matter on which there was a conflict of interest. So that was presented to you back in November. After about 2 hours of public testimony and again, a lot of briefings that occurred beforehand, there were some changes that were made with respect to that the PBA had raised with respect to the collective bargaining agreement. And Mr. Dingfelder, we committed to you that we would continue it so that we could work together to address those concerns that you had and to make any additional changes. So it went from November 19th to February 25th. On February 25th, after having worked with the PBA, hours and hours that Ursula and I spent on the phone with the PBA, and with the ACLU, same thing, hours with their lawyers, we had a proposal that I, in good faith, thought was the compromise proposal and fully expected you all to approve it. Maybe I was naive in thinking that. That what I'll call the compromise proposal from February, also it continued on the provision for a separate attorney if there was a formal conflict of interest. So when council made their motion in February to change the board appointments to the 7-4 proposal, it was really somewhat of a reversal of what was presented to you in 2 or 3 of the earlier drafts. And likewise, on your motion for a charter amendment on independent counsel was also something that was never raised or brought up in the previous 2 drafts. And there were even many more smaller edits that were made in between that time. As you know, Mr. Dingfelder, I gave you the Word document, and you made many changes yourself. And the administration compromised on nearly every single change. What it came down to were there were 3 changes on which they were not willing to compromise, and that was on the independent counsel, and on the subpoena power, and on the board appointments. So, you know what happened in February. You asked me to bring it back to you today. As your representative, I had an obligation to bring back to you the ordinance as you requested that it be amended. And in these briefings, we advised you that the administration does not support this proposal. And that gets to the point that there's a legal issue that is associated with that I will address at the end of the administration's presentation. But I also want to clarify just this procedural issue because I know it's created a lot of confusion. There's 2 documents that we're dealing with. One is the ordinance. It's very short, has some recital clauses. It was given to you all back in November. And then there's the exhibit to the ordinance, which contains the code section. This CRB proposal has gotten so comprehensive that it's really not possible to put it in a separate ordinance. So what we have for you is an ordinance with the option of this Exhibit A, which is the May option, the option that is on the agenda today. So I will put that up there as, your first option, the option that you asked for. I will also put up here the option that was agreed to back in February. This was the draft Exhibit A that could be attached to this ordinance if you would prefer to go with the proposal that was presented to you back in February. That was what I'll call the compromise proposal, the proposal I thought was poised to go forward.
Point of order, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Dingfelder, if you
Okay.
would, let her finish that
Well,
first, and I'll let you speak.
But a point of order prevails.
Wonderful, sir.
Okay. I was good all the way up until you provided the pending document from February. Okay? That is not what this council voted on 6-1. Nobody has asked you that I'm aware of, okay, as a body, this body has not asked you to bring back something that we've already passed up. The same way nobody asked you to bring forward the September document or the December document or anything else. I think it's completely out of order to bring up that document that we've already passed up and voted 6-1 to move past. I don't understand that. I think you're carrying the water for Mr. Bennett or Chief Dugan or somebody else in the administration by doing that. That's why it's out of order.
Well,
Thank you.
if you'll let me finish, I can explain why I did that. And after I'm done, I was going to introduce Chief Dugan to present the administration's proposal.
Well,
And make those policy arguments.
when
But
you
let me
One
finish.
time.
Let me finish.
We gave it back to her.
Okay.
The reason that there are 2 options up here is because many of the council members want to take action today, but they don't find acceptable the May version. So we go back to the most recent version, which was the February version. But there's another reason, a legal reason, that I need to explain to you, and that is, and I hesitate to ever bring up the charter because I know that that's a very sensitive subject for not just you, but for Mr. Shelby as well. And I'm just going to read what the charter says. I'm not going to interpret it. Under Charter Section 1.04, Separation of Powers, City Council is granted all legislative power, quote, except as otherwise herein expressly provided, close quote. Under the Charter Sections 4.013, dealing with the mayor, and Section 5.01D, dealing with the chief of police, the chief and the mayor are expressly granted the duty and responsibility of general charge and management of the police force and issuance of rules and regulations for the conduct of the department. So, City Council's legislative power does not extend to the police department. because the charter expressly provides otherwise with regard to the management of and supervision and control of the police department. Also, we're concerned with the inclusion of TPD administrative directives into a CRB ordinance because it will create the misperception that council has the authority to direct the affairs of the police department, and they do not. Only the mayor and the chief of police do. And that's, I think, one of the questions that you brought up earlier as to why a charter review is necessary, because there's provisions in the city code, and you don't understand how they're in there if the council doesn't have the right to exercise or direct those functions. That's what's happening here. This ordinance will require the mayor's consent and approval, the chief's consent and approval, because you're directing the affairs of the police department and you don't have the legislative authority to do that. But the February version, the mayor is willing to consent and approve of that, and so is the chief. And so the directives and the requirements that are in the February version would be consented to by the mayor and the chief of police and could be incorporated into your legislation.
Mr. Shelby, Mr. Grimes, the city attorney, has indicated certain things in the charter. I'd like to get your interpretation of the charter for this council.
Did I hear the words interpretation?
What is your view of the charter and the powers of this city council as it relates to the police department and the administration in reference to the orders or the ordinance that Ms. Grimes has put forth?
So if I understand Ms. Grimes, and this is the first time I'm hearing this in this forum, F-O-R-M.
Ms. Grimes, I'm having trouble seeing Mr. Shelby. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The setup is
Yeah, it's
difficult.
a little weird.
It goes back to the reason I asked for the continuance on the charter issue. Why I thought that Ms. Grimes and I would be able to resolve these issues one way or the other. And because it was my interpretation, and Ms. Grimes agreed with me to do so, was to supersede the previous ordinance that was conjoined with an executive order, which is a discussion I don't want to get into because it's resolved. Or I thought so until actually this moment, because it looks like this interpretation is still.
Mr. Chair,
Point of order, let Mr. Shelby finish. Let him finish with what his interpretation is, and then we'll go to council members. Mr. Shelby.
It appears that we're back to the discussion of, in effect, a super veto because of the interpretation of the charter. The mayor does have the ability to communicate to council why the mayor doesn't support it. And if the mayor chooses to, if the council still, in spite of it, or despite it, still chooses to go forward, in the charter, the mayor has a remedy. It's called the veto. In the exercise of legislative authority, the city council can override the veto. We can talk about the purposes of why the departments are in the charter. And other jurisdictions have departments in the charter. And one of the reasons the police department, and I know this from personal experience in other jurisdictions, is specifically called out in the charter, is so that you as a legislative body cannot disband it because it requires the people of the city to be able to do that. It's not a legislative function. That's just off the top of my head, but I will tell you that I'm not prepared to opine on this. I think, frankly, I don't want to characterize it. I'm happy to hear out the administration's position and be able to hear the city attorney's position, the entire presentation, before I would even be able to formulate your options.
Mr. Carlson, we recognize that Mr. Dingfelter.
yeah, I imagine that the citizens watching this are appalled and shocked by this kind of thing. This is the kind of thing that the last administration did in pulling the charter card over and over again. And I have the utmost respect for Ms. Grimes, but we've seen this coming up constantly now, and our legal counsel interprets it differently. And I guess what we're going to do is the last mayor hired a friendly counsel to get an advice on something. I guess we're going to end up in litigation over this, because I, for one, am not going to stand for misinterpretation of the charter or an interpretation of the charter that takes away the city council's powers. And I don't know about this particular issue. We need to seek legal counsel, but I think we need to make a motion to continue this for a few months, because we need to get proper legal counsel. We're not going to get legal counsel here. I'm not sure that Mr. Shelby can do that, and we need to get independent external counsel to advise us, or we need to get a judge to decide this, because it's unacceptable that the constant interpretation from the city attorney's office, who's supposed to be representing the people of the city, and the city council and the mayor's office, seems to be one-sided in these recommendations. I'm not going to stand for it. If my colleagues don't agree, I'm not going to stand for it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You recognize Mr. Dingfelder and Mr. Vieira.
From a practical perspective, Ms. Grimes, I'm sorry. From a practical perspective, I asked you this morning, I said, do we have the documents ready to move forward with council's May motion?
Yes.
Okay? And you handed me the ordinance, which has 2 whereas clauses and makes reference to Exhibit A, which is the motion, which copies the motion that passed 6-1, council, 6-1 in February. And you handed me these, and I think I said, are we ready to move forward with these if it's council's decision to move forward with these? And, and I didn't get any pushback. You handed me these documents, which implied to me that I can make a motion to say, here they are, let's be done with this. We voted 6-1 to get to this point today, and be done with it and adopt this ordinance. This is a good ordinance. This is an ordinance that we've worked on for more than a year, as you've described at great length. In Congress, they work on legislation for many years. We've worked on this for a year, and it's in good shape, and it has input from the community, has input from the mayor, has input from us, and it's ready to go. Now, you're placing that other one on there, and in my hearing, insinuating that we don't have a choice. We are the exclusive legislative body under
Correct.
the charter provision that you read. I'm sorry. It is upsetting. Anyway,
Ms. Grimes, let him finish, and then you can rebut what he's saying.
are we or are we not ready to move forward with this ordinance that's in my hand that came out of a 6-1 vote back in February?
May I answer it?
That was a question.
You asked me to prepare the ordinance, and I did. The administration has reviewed it, and they do not support it.
Okay. And they can veto it under the charter.
Since September 24th, when we had the 5.5-hour workshop, and I submitted a lengthy legal opinion, this precise issue was addressed in that legal opinion about that the charge and supervision and management of the police department was solely within the jurisdiction of the mayor and the chief of police. But you know
then we shouldn't be doing any ordinance, because you're telling us we're not allowed to.
This was an effort, a collective effort, a collaborative effort, as we committed to from the beginning, between the mayor and the city council. And you know what, if you don't want to interpret the charter, you don't have to, but we can at least read it, because I think it's crystal clear as far as the police department is concerned. It says, the police department, which shall have cognizance of all matters relating to law enforcement, the chief of police shall be the head of the department, and under the control and supervision of the mayor, shall have general charge of the police forces, and it shall be the duty of the chief of police to, 1, preserve the peace and enforce all ordinances of the city. 2, to manage the police department. 3, to protect and preserve the property of the city assigned to the department. And 4, to prescribe from time to time, by and with the consent of the mayor, rules and regulations for the orderly and efficient conduct of the department and its forces.
Can I just finish one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Dingfelder to Mr. Vieira.
What I'm hearing you say, Gina, is you're reading this and you're speaking to us, and I believe what you're saying is the only ordinance we can approve as a body, as the legislative body, is an ordinance that the mayor has signed off on. Okay, and the mayor never comes down here and talks to us about this, and we've never seen her signature on any of this. Okay, so I don't know specifically out of the horse's mouth what she wants or what she doesn't want. But I believe what you're saying is the only ordinance we can approve is the one that the mayor has blessed. And to me, that takes away our legislative authority, our sole legislative authority as it's stated in the charter. Okay, and if you're saying that we need the mayor's approval, then we shouldn't even be allowed to adopt any ordinance at all.
Mr. Vieira, you recognize, Mr. Miranda.
Thank you thank you. I just want to, how shall I say this? You know, I'm seeing a lot of escalation here. I want to have a resolution on these issues today. All the issues today dealing with the CRB. I think that we agree on 80%, 90% of the issues before us. We're focusing on the 10%. We can vote yes or no on either ordinance, on whatever. I can propose right now a bunch of edits, have them change between first and second reading, and I can be voted down. The way I interpret the mayor saying, or the administration, mayor, whatever, saying, that's my position. If you pass this, I'm going to veto it. I don't think that's the mayor or the administration telling us we can't pass something. That's them merely stating their position. I've agreed with their position in the past. There's issues that I've disagreed with them on. That's merely them stating their position. We can pass whatever we want, right? But then it's subject to the system of our charter. I just want to make sure that we don't escalate this situation. If we don't pass something here today, that is a terrible failure. We should pass something today, something that is good. Again, we agree on 80 to 90% of the things. I think all of us do. Let's focus on that. That's just my respectful opinion. Everybody who's here, I think, has good intentions. I know all seven of us, all six of y'all, good people, good folks. All the folks here are good folks, public servants. Let's pass something today and focus on that 80 or 90%. Let's not escalate stuff. Thank you.
Miranda,
Thank you, Chair. I'm not as astute as Mr. Vieira, but in understanding what I've heard and understanding maybe I was the one that I was referred to 6-1. I'm usually the one anyway. So when you look at item D, I'm not a lawyer and I've never been in court to understand a document other than one. I don't want to be like Washington, D.C., where they're tearing apart the Constitution, and the Constitution, the Charter really relates to different governments, but it means the same thing. What you have the right to do, what you don't have the right to do. So we agree, like Mr. Vieira said, in 80 or 90% of this one item. Maybe, just maybe, there's a way that you can present that one item, D, and have these two attorneys go before a judge and let the judge make the interpretation of what it means. I think there's a friendly way of doing these things without having all this conversation. What we're doing here is starting a Washington, D.C. problem, and I don't want that to happen here. I have enough problems without that. So the people in this community, the people in this country have enough problems without listing one side or the other side and nothing in the middle. There's got to be somewhere in the middle. And that middle has disappeared in America. And there's what our country is torn in half, and this city is going to be torn in half, just like the Constitution is on both sides, whether you're an R or a D or an I or no party affiliation. This is what's coming to this council. We continue this. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vieira, I saw your hand.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carlson, anybody else?
I only say that I see Chief Dugan here standing, who's been here patiently. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything. That's all. I don't have anything else to say.
We'll get to him, but we're still on this public charter right quick. Mr. Carlson?
Yeah,
Anybody without Mr. Carlson? Because I'm going to say a few words about the charter.
I think
recognize, sir.
Thank you. On charter issues, they're much bigger issues that our attorney needs time to be able to respond, and we need to be able to have time to get advice from city council attorney. This item was put not on the regular agenda. This is the conversation we had at the beginning. It was added as an amendment, and I'm not aware that item D or whatever the other choices was put on the website for anybody publicly to give input on it. I'm okay. I think we know where the administration stands. Instead of wasting the whole afternoon listening to it, why don't we vote on option A and D and see where we end up? And if it ends up in a charter fight going before a judge, I think we should go before a judge at some point. But if we can approve something and move on, let's do it instead of spending time going back and forth, please. Or if you all want to debate the charter issue, let's put it on an agenda. Let's continue it for a few months and then battle out the charter issue in the meantime. Thank you.
There are two issues here. The main frame of the charter is your legislative body, laws and ordinances, which this body does. The second portion is D, where when this body votes on a legislative matter, the charter said it is the mayor's duty to fulfill the charter laws and regulations of this body. Now, second portion of that with D is correct. We can approve whatever, but there may be policies and procedures along the way that the mayor sees fit during the city's operational duties and the police chief's duty that they implement that are policies. They're not legislative. This point right now, we have a legislative document. This body is voted on the legislative body document. And we go forth with this document today. That then goes to the administration to sign off. If they don't agree, it comes back to a veto. If it doesn't come back to a veto, then the mayor enacts those legislative rules and policies. Now, if there are some other issues that come up during the chief's duties and with the police department, the mayor and the chief have the right to do whatever they need to do to deal with those particular policies, unless it contradicts something of the charter or our legislative laws and ordinances. It's very simple. But now, we have people's hearts and passions that have gotten involved in this now. And you have the police union, the police department feeling one way, you have ACLU and folks feeling another way. So now we've got all these things entangled that are document that it's very simple to, I believe, that interpret. And I believe that this body has the right to enact laws and legislation. And the second portion is the mayor's administration then puts those out, what those laws have been enacted from us, and if there are any other counter policies that they want to act on the way, then that's the police chief and the mayor's right to do. And that's the way I see it. I'm not a lawyer, but when I read it, that's the way I read. Mr. Grimes?
I just want to say that there are other options. There's multiple other options. It's just that we've spent the last year and 7 meetings going over them all. And as you know, working through all the language, changing it, massaging it. I want to explain why this is the legal situation that we all find ourselves in. It's because this is a comprehensive reform of the Citizens Review Board. It isn't just the average Citizens Review Board. There were four different directives in here that really changed it from going from the old Citizens Review Board that didn't really direct the affairs of the police department to one that did. And that's the interview panel for prospective officers. That was something that was proposed by Chairman Goods. It's something that the chief himself supports and is standing by ready to implement. But I think that all of you could agree that the council as the legislative body does not have the legislative authority to advise or direct the chief to establish an interview panel and who to put on it. That is an administrative executive function under that charter section that I just read to you. And so, under the separation of powers, you have broad legislative authority except as otherwise expressly provided in the charter, which it is. The other major reform you're adopting is the complaint filing and tracking system, directing the police department every time they intake a complaint to assign it a number, give it a tracking, put it through a tracking system, publish it online, and then report all those complaints to the CRB, the community survey. You are directing the CRB to advise TPD to conduct a community survey, and then the last one was the reassignment of the CRB attorney. That's another executive function that's being directed or addressed in this ordinance that is not permitted under the charter as a legislative act, but as an act that's both executive and legislative. It can be done. And all of us essentially, you're combining your legislative powers with the mayor and the chief's administrative and executive powers, and you're coming out with a much, much better ordinance and a comprehensive reform of a CRB that you should be proud of. And, this is just such a hot button topic, but the end product is excellent. And I would strongly recommend that, we take action today to move forward with it. And I'll let the chief address you as far as what the policy reasons are for the administration's position.
Can I get, Mr. Shelby, I saw your hand up. Did you? Okay, I thought I saw your hand.
No, I prefer, counsel, that you hear from the chief and the administration on this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief?
Good afternoon, Council. Brian Dugan, Chief of Police, Tampa Police Department. As you're aware, we have worked very hard to be transparent with our community. We are open to oversight and reform. We have reviewed and implemented changes and kept an open mind as to what our community expects from their police department. I have said in the past that I would speak less and listen more, and I believe I've done that. But I've now come before you today to speak because I think it's time that I speak to you because I've been too quiet for way too long on this topic. The past year has been very difficult on our police officers. The times of civil unrest, the pandemic, the continued criticism of how we police has taken its toll on our morale. Police officers are required to make split-second decisions, and yet this council has taken over a year to make decisions on the CRB. 5 days from now will be the anniversary of 1 year of George Floyd's murder. And here we are still talking about reform. And quite frankly, this whole thing today has become a clog in the drain of progression. So I have some slides to present. What's that?
What, Mr. Carlos? Is what you calling for, sir?
You just blame city council for this taking a year to go through. This is a negotiation that there are different factions of the community that have different views on it. Some of them want more regulation and somewhat less. And the city council and the mayor's office, Ms. Grimes, have been working closely with the community for a year, going back and forth on it. Every version that comes up, there's concern going back and forth, and we're trying to listen to the concern and trying to get, but you just blamed us as if we're not trying to fix the problem or if we don't have any regard for the police. One of the reasons why we've delayed it is because one of the interested parties is the PBA, and there are people in our community, especially my constituents, who are very supportive of the police. And we want to take the police point of view in mind. We don't want to just take the ACLU or these other groups, and that's why it's taken so long. I just find it very offensive that you would just blanket say, oh, well, city council can't make a decision. We've been trying to listen to the community, which unfortunately hadn't happened for a long time with this city before this city council got on board and this mayor got on board. And we need to listen to the community more, and we need to figure out what the solutions are. Thank you. Sorry for the...
Well, I would disagree with you that we don't listen to the community. Tampa Police Department has a strong record of community policing and listening to the community. And some of the comments that I've had to sit here and listen to, Mr. Dingfelder talk about Gina Grimes carrying my water. I appreciate that, but nobody carries Brian Dugan's water. Okay, I have not hid from the media. I have not delegated any of my dirty work. So I take umbrage with that comment. Not blaming. I have to move forward as the chief of police, and our police department needs to move forward. And I'm getting ready to the point I'm going to explain to you what we've done, and if that's not good enough, then I'm going to ask the administration that we move forward anyways. So 8 can't wait. We're very much aware that was. That came in within days of the George Floyd murder. And we immediately made changes to our policies to align ourselves within those guidelines. We made sure that our policies reflected what we practice. We banned no-knock search warrants. We don't do no-knock search warrants. In my 31 years at the police department, Councilman Gooch, you spent over 25 years there. We don't do no-knock search warrants. But you know what? We put it in writing because it was important to people because of the Breonna Taylor incident. So we...
Can I ask you a substantive question?
Sure.
You and I go way back. The only difference between that document and that the only difference between that document and that document is this issue about who selects the members. Substantively, there's no other difference. We are all on the same page. I believe that TPD does a great job. I think we've all done a really good job in fixing this ordinance. This council voted 6-1 2 months ago to move forward with this ordinance, and the only thing we tweaked from the difference between that document is that and that document is that we, council picks one member each, and the mayor gets 4, okay, which is a slight drop. Other than that, I love you. We love each other. It's like we're all on the same page. That's the only issue.
Well, I'm not feeling the love, just so you know.
Well, I'm sorry. I think that on a day-to-day basis, you know that this council cares about you and cares about your people and cares about TPD. And we show it week in and week out.
I'm not sure that our police officers can continue to go out into these neighborhoods and police effectively with it hanging over their head in limbo on how they're going to be second-guessed by a CRB and other members of this community when they're making split-second decisions. We have to move forward.
Yes,
and
we want to.
But so if you want, I can cut to the chase on my opinion on the 3 items that everybody is arguing about.
But it's not even those 3 items. The only issue right this second between that stack of paper and that stack of paper is who picks those members. That's the only issue. The other 2 issues, we've all agreed we're going to put them off till next February. It's not in the ordinance.
Okay, so as a chief of police, I have a problem with it waiting till next February.
Well,
let's make the decision
That's a
today.
discussion for another day, though.
Well, that's the problem. That is the problem. It can't keep going to another day. Like Councilman Good said, we work for the people. As the chief of police, I serve at the pleasure of the mayor, but I work for the people. So why don't we come to a conclusion and make a decision? Let's get everybody on the record and say either are willing to move forward with progress or you want to continue to delay this.
But this document is progress. And the only difference between those 2 documents is who picks those members, which I find to be a very, very insignificant thing. Those other 2 issues, I backed off of. Okay, the independent counsel, I backed off of. I wanted it in this document. The subpoena power, I wanted it in this document. But I backed off of because Ms. Grimes said we shouldn't do it, we can't do it, whatever. To me, that was the compromise. So we backed off of that. My fellow member made a motion about the composition and who picks it. We voted on it 6-1. We're ready to move on this, Chief. We can move on it together.
I can't support delaying this till February. I think these 3 items need to be discussed and delivered today to our community and to our police department.
Well, let's vote on this item, and then we can discuss those other 2 items later. Later today.
I think your civilian oversight is not the golden ticket to police reform that some of you think it is. It's not the way it's done. It's policies, trainings, and transparency is how it's done. And we have civilian oversight. I don't think people are aware of that. It neuters the authority of police chiefs when we just throw everything to a civilian oversight. We have a civil service board in the city of Tampa. We have a police officer who currently works for us. He had 3 different investigations on that were all similar. The first time, he was cleared by the department. The second time, because we didn't believe him now, because now we've got 2 incidents, he was suspended. The third time he did this, I terminated him as chief of police because I hold cops accountable. He went to the Civil Service Board and got his job back. What discipline did he get? Nothing. How is that possible? That he was suspended in one incident, a very similar incident, he gets terminated and gets 0 discipline because they didn't understand the process, they don't understand our procedures. I hold cops accountable. It's time that we just move forward. I don't think the civilian oversight is the golden ticket to police reform that some people feel it is.
Let me say this, Chief. A person who understands police policies, procedures. On one hand, I understand here. On the other hand, I hear from citizens. I'm in a role now that I have to make a decision that's best for everybody. What I see now, we have a document. Whether the administration likes the idea of the numbers or not, there's a document, we can vote up or down. Those other issues, we're not even dealing with those other issues to get the department moving forward. Those other issues, like we said, that's going to come up possibly, if any, do our charter review with Ms. Grimes, Mrs. Shelby about other issues, not just maybe a attorney. And I always say it doesn't matter if I have an attorney or not, because I still got a double-A sword, because if we have an outside independent counsel, the charter says that the city attorney makes the ultimate decision anyway. So now you still have a bad policy per se, because now you have a double-A sword with the attorney situation. So these are all things that we can't deal with right now. You're right, we need to move forward, up or down vote on what I believe in reference to the numbers. The rest of that stuff is kicked down the road during our charter review session workshop on just about on the issues that we're going to put up about the charter. But I do believe you're right, we need to move today with this item. If the administration doesn't like our vote, the mayor has the right to veto that vote, and then we move forward with a supermajority if that's the case. My thing is, I don't understand, for me, what is the big deal with each member getting a person? I don't see the big deal with each person. I mean, I'm a believer. I'm not gonna pick anybody who I know is anti-police or hate the police or have way out far ideas or goals. I'm gonna pick somebody who understands policies and procedures, who understands community policies and procedures. A person that's gonna be a viable helpmate to understand, hey, that cop was right. He was wrong what he did. On the other hand, I think that's wrong. That cop was wrong. So I'm not going to choose anybody. I wouldn't, because I understand policy. And I think that will probably be the key. Just on any board I choose in the city, I've never picked a person to be on a board who is not qualified of the subject matter, period. Because I want to make sure the decisions that are made, I represent Councilman Goose, and I'm making the right decision. So I hear you, I understand you, but I just think that we need to move now on this issue, and that rest stuff is kicked down the road to get things moving in the department.
My concern as the chief is that we would have a neutral board. And I think what the administration has put forward in the 5, 5, and 1 would be more of a neutral board.
What makes it more neutral with the 5, 5?
Because everybody, it's an even amount. You have 5 and 5, and then you have one from the NAACP, a member.
The one with the NAACP, I have questions about. I mean, I love the NAACP, but I don't think, again, anybody from the executive level should be on that board. It should be a member or something like that, because, you know, some issues may come up. That's my own personal opinion.
We address that. We look at out in your direction.
Ursula, I'll let you go.
I just want to clear up for the record. I've listened to you talk about the veto, and I believe that it's come up a couple of times. One of the unique things about the current existing CRB ordinance is the way that it was implemented, and I don't want to bring it up and bring up any bad issues or anything, but the way that this was implemented, the provision in your implementation back in 2015, and not you specifically, but City Council's implementation, said that this chapter of our ordinance would not get changed unless those changes were initiated by the mayor and then sent to City Council for approval. This issue as to the board appointments was not initiated by the mayor, which means as far as what currently exists, in order to change it, it would have had to be initiated by the mayor and then brought to you. This was initiated by City Council, so by its very nature, your current you are proposing to change legislation outside of what your old legislation says, the method of changing it.
And if we go with this new method, would there be a whereas clause in there saying that a new administration comes and you just can't come and change that? That's a concern of the council, I think.
Well, the council, I believe Ms. Grimes addressed that. What was being proposed in the February edition was, I believe, what we were referring to as a rip and replace. And so the new legislation that's being proposed would not have that, if you call it nuance, whatever it is, whatever that technicality is, it would not be in the new ordinance or executive order.
So the new ordinance will supersede the old executive order, correct?
Under the version that was given to you under the February 2021 version.
Mr.
Yes,
Shelby?
sir.
I was gonna add, as I've said to you previously, that this proposal requires, the administration's approval as well as the council's approval. And so the manner in which we were gonna do that is companion, do you remember talking about the companion executive order and ordinance? We were gonna do what we've referred to as the rip and replace, because we all know how, unpleasant the previous ordinance, the sentiment about the previous ordinance and the previous executive order. So we were going to supersede the previous ordinance from 2015, and we were going to supersede the previous executive order from 2015. However, the executive order will state that the directives to the police department cannot be changed unless the mayor agrees to the changes to the directives, just to, Mr. Dingfelder.
I just raised
it's
my
just-
hand. That's all I did was raise my hand.
Relax, relax,
Well,
relax.
when you- when you
I didn't
correct-
try, I'm sorry. I
Point of
didn't-
order, point
I
of order.
wasn't-
She has the floor, Mr.
I
Dingfelder.
wasn't interrupting. I
Okay,
wasn't
it-
interrupting.
When it comes to those sweeping directives that are in this comprehensive proposal, it's going to require the consent of the chief and the mayor. There are minor changes you can make to the existing ordinance if you'd like. There's quite a few changes. Actually, I evaluated that as maybe an option C, but they have nowhere near the value or importance or transparency that all of these comprehensive changes will provide. But you have to accept that it's got to be a joint proposal between the legislative branch and the administrative branch. I don't know why that's so objectionable. I actually think it demonstrates the spirit of cooperation, and we end up with a model CRB.
Mr. Shelby's trying to dance. I'm going to let Mr. Shelby talk, and then I'll go. I saw Mr. Carlson. Mr. Carlson was first, Mr. Dingfelder, then I'll go to you, sir. Mr. Shelby.
I hear reference from the legal department of the word change. This ordinance does not change anything. It supersedes everything. Because it's my opinion that the ordinance as it stands and the way it's been interpreted in the September memo from the city attorney's office that she's referenced, with that interpretation, it's my opinion that the ordinance as it stands violates the separation of powers as the charter, because you as a legislative body cannot change that without the prior approval of the mayor. That's almost what we call, like in the First Amendment law, something like prior restraint. You are restrained even before proposing something unless you have the mayor's blessing. The mayor is also bound. Why? Because if she changes the executive order that is contrary to law, which is contrary to the ordinance, then she is in violation of the charter. And I think the city attorney would agree that the mayor can't do that. So she has the right to do executive orders, but she cannot do it inconsistent with the council. She cannot do it inconsistent with law. So what we have here, council, frankly, is check. And if council wants to move forward with the administration, I think this is going to have to be resolved in one form or fashion. Otherwise, frankly, council, you may very well both the administrative, the executive branch, and the legislative branch may be stuck with this where neither side can change it unless you can work together as a city.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize Mr. Dingfelder, and then Mr. Vieira.
First, there's a lot of things to comment on. I know my colleagues want to comment too, but this is, as someone stated before, this is fixing the 2015 version. This is not because of last year. It's not anything new. It's fixing the 2015 version, which somebody can Google the history on it and see why it was created and what it was about. But the origin of that was Biking While Black, which was a investigative story by the Times. And the community was upset about it, and they said we need safeguards. And the reason why there's a discussion about balance of power now is not about this administration, but what happens if we get an administration in the future that implements something like Biking While Black? How do we make sure that the public is protected? And the makeup of the board is not, just because a city council member appoints something doesn't mean they're pro or against the police. They're going to pick somebody who represents the broad cross-section of the community. I think the majority of my constituents are very, very supportive of the police. So if I appointed somebody who hated the police, I would get thrown out of office for that. So it's just about making sure that it represents the public. The mayor, whoever that is one person who represents a constituency, and we're 7 people who represent a constituency. The thing that bothers me about this process today is that we and the public, mainly the public, got this information last second. Today there's some new legal arguments being argued. There was one that was just argued that I never heard before. We asked over and over again that the charter issues be handled behind the scenes so we wouldn't have this argument in public. I think that besides us getting the documents at the last minute, we all should have been briefed on these issues so we could have figured this out before we walked in. We shouldn't have had another 2-hour-long conversation. The public's not even weighing in on it. At the end of this, our choices, I think, really are we've got to defer it so we can work out the charter issues, which we asked to be resolved months ago and apparently have not been resolved. We, City Council, asked for those issues to be resolved. We knew that they existed and we wanted them resolved. They're not resolved. One of the issues was that we had asked for this to supersede the old one, and now apparently the version we have on the table cannot supersede, which I just learned. I didn't realize that in reading the documents. And so what I think is we either need to, instead of having another 2 hours of conversation, we should vote to either continue it so that we can work out the charter issues, or we should just do up or down vote on each version and see what happens. But I think we all know the issues now. Thank you.
Mr. Vieira and Mr. Miranda.
Thank you very much, sir. I wanted to point out just, I guess for future, that Chief Dugan was speaking. I always think that when any speaker, it could be Chief Dugan, could be Gina Grimes, could be anybody, that when questions arise during a person's speaking, it kind of, gets us a little, I don't want to use the word off topic, but it just gets us not focused where we should be. Again, I'm going to use the word, again, escalation. I've used that a lot today. I want to focus on the fact that, as has been said before, we agree on 80 or 90% of the issues. You even look at who gets to appoint members. The 7-4 split, I voted no on that. The reason I voted no on that is because a number of things, chiefly, I don't see a pathway for the people who are presently serving on the board to be reappointed by whoever's going to reappoint them and prospectively getting the boot. I don't see that. I don't think that's something that's the proper way to do. Taking a look at having that 11th appointment under a 6-5 split confirmed by City Council gives us a majority of the appointments. That's a good thing. That's obviously progress. But again, we agree on 80 or 90% of the issues that are before us. I agree with Councilman Carlson, which is we ought to vote on these things today. I do not, absent some issue that comes out of left field, a continuance on this today, I think would be lacking under the circumstances. We should vote up or down. And again, we agree on virtually all of the issues. And on the issue of the appointments in a majority, I think we agree in principle on that. It's a matter of the proper implementation of it, in my opinion. But just my thoughts.
Mr. Miranda, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've said it before. I listen, and we're so close and yet so far. And being far and close means the same. That means you ain't coming to no conclusion. So I've said it earlier, I said it again. We ought to get a speedy thing, appeal to the court, and let the court decide on item D. That's what was brought up earlier, that's cost all these items. I think there was 7 words after the first intro. There was, I forgot what the word said, but it ended with a period before the sentence ran out in the first sentence of that paragraph. And those are the words that we're looking at now, and I apologize because I didn't look at it long enough to memorize it. So those are the words that we should have Mr. Shelby and Ms. Graham goes and present, not as a opposition, one view and another view, simply on the items that we discussed earlier today. And let the judge decide, because if not, this is going to carry on forever and ever and ever, whether it's 2015, this mayor or the next mayor. these things will be eating away at this city of over 400,000 people, and they're the ones that are going to suffer. So I don't want to see this cloth torn in half. I don't want to be Washington, D.C. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bennett. I'm going to ask this question.
All right,
You
good
have-
afternoon again, John Bennett, Chief of Staff. I just want to talk from the lens of the administration for a minute. We've all heard the timelines. We all know where we are today. Don't disagree with any of those points in the conversation. We've been through some very tough things in 2 years together, worked very hard to get them done. We listen to the community, we listen to the union, we listen to the ACLU, we listen to council, we listen to constituents. There's 64 police calls an hour going on out there. 64 an hour. That's more than one a minute that those officers are making decisions on. They need some closure regardless of the rest of the journey, in my professional opinion, after doing this for 30 years. I've investigated officers, I've trained officers, I've coached officers, I've disciplined them, I've terminated them, brought them back to work, rejuvenated their careers. I've been all over the country changing policy. I'm on a law enforcement action program committee that's doing police reform around the world, not just in the United States. I've seen this I've been a high liability instructor in every single facet of deploying police officers that you can imagine. That 80% that we're talking about, and I'll use Councilman Vieira's points on that for real quick, that was 80% from where we were. So it's truly from 0 to 80, not just 80 within the actual opportunity to pass what the administration thinks is a really big leap in progress. I have seen model policies from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I've been through the accreditation process. I can tell you that the legal department, working with the ACLU, the union, council, constituents, the USF academic side, have put together a model, an absolute model CRB plan going forward. Are there a few things that need to be looked at over time that the administration doesn't feel should go across? And I want to point out to Councilman Carlson's comments for a minute. I have talked to several of you about what Ms. Ursula just talked about, rip and replace. That was very important to council, that we had a new foundation. That new foundation is put in front of you, absent of those things that the administration thinks does not need to be in the version that was issued in May, but back in February. And that list is a tremendous leap of progress within the CRB, and those officers and those citizens that are receiving police service deserve closure today. And that's how I'm going to leave it.
Mr. Dingfeldt, recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And we all appreciate your service, of course, the chief's service, and all of TPD. We appreciate Ms. Grimes. Ms. Grimes, I know you put your heart into this, as well as Ursula, Ms. Richardson. We appreciate you too. I'd go further than 80%, Mr. Vieira. I'd say we're 99%. And as of 2 months ago, in February, maybe longer than 2 months ago, council said, we're done. We're done. We voted 6-1. We had this discussion already. We voted 6-1. And frankly, I didn't hear anything until yesterday afternoon that anybody in the administration had a problem with it. Not a peep. How many days have gone by since that vote until yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? I'm not going to rehash everything. I don't want to go there. I just think that we voted 6-1 to move forward with this tremendous ordinance that is a big improvement over where we were before, and it's something we can all work with together, including this fine mayor. And I hope that she's okay with it. But with that, I'm going to move that we adopt and pass the ordinance today for first reading that includes the Exhibit A that Ms. Grimes gave us and I'm going to provide this to the clerk, and if council needs a copy, the clerk can make a copy. The Exhibit A that we voted on 6-1, that includes council having 7 of those votes, 1 each. And the cover document, which is the actual ordinance and the description, which has 2 whereas clauses, and Ms. Grimes provided me this as well. So I'm going to give this to the clerk, and that's my motion.
Mr. Dingfelder, may I just ask, is that a clean copy for the clerk that doesn't have the words draft on them?
It doesn't have the word what?
Draft.
There is
Okay.
no word draft on there. That's a clean copy with none of my handwriting or anything.
Thank you.
Can't use that then.
I'll make you read the ordinance.
You can't use that. Well, first of all, you can't use that because it's not, the ordinance is not drafted. Is it?
Wait, well, here's the question. I have a question. I have a question, Mr. Chairman, and this is I guess a procedural / legal.
All right, wait a
question.
second. Let me see if I can get a second. All right, thank you.
Mr. Dingfelder's motion on the floor. Mr. Carlson second, but I want to go to Mr. Shelby first, then we'll go to Mr. Maniscalco, whoever in the day. Mr. Vieira will be next.
Procedural question. The ordinance that was presented did not have an attachment with it. Yet there is a signature line on the ordinance that says, as to legal sufficiency, a line for the city attorney.
They sign it later.
Yeah, but is it, my question is, she prepared this pursuant to council's motion.
Right.
The question is, if it's her position that it should be that one and not the other one, for charter reasons, the question is,
No.
is it her position?
No, Mr. Shelby, please don't take us down that road.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Chairman. I'm not.
Point of order!
Sorry.
Mr. Shelby is the legal counsel.
I'm sorry.
He has the floor. He will give us directions on what we should be doing. Mr. Shelby, you have the floor.
Well, Councilman Dingfelder raised a very interesting point because he said he didn't know about this until yesterday. And he did reference the fact that this issue was an issue from council's vote on February 25th. Now, as to council's ability to supersede this ordinance and resolve the problems in 2015, I thought that was a very excellent solution and solved a lot of problems. And yet today, for the first time, as we're sitting here now, I'm hearing the fact that there are bases in the charter that it doesn't make a difference whether you supersede it or not. You can't change it without the mayor, unless the city attorney is going to go on the record and say that's the case. And I'm going to give you an example in your new ordinance. New ordinance creates an annual report. And everybody wanted the annual report. Well, here's my question to you, council. What is your role and your ability to respond as a legislative body to something in the annual report? Are you precluded from doing anything unless you get the prior approval of whatever mayor, or a future council has to get the prior approval of whatever mayor based on an opinion of the city attorney? So basically, you have an annual report. You may hear something that a future council to raise an issue, and yet you will have a consistent opinion that says you have no power to change it unless the mayor gives you prior approval. I wouldn't have thought, believe me, I wouldn't have thought about this as I sit here today had I not heard this issue for the first time. I'm just concerned. You could pass it, council, but what you're doing is probably having the same legal effect as what happened with a prior council in 2015, and that's why you find yourselves where you are today.
Mr. Dingfelder, then I'll go to Ms. Grimes.
Mr. Shelby, I'm going to quote the chief right now and say sometimes we need some finality. Okay? This motion on the floor, legal counsel handed us a document pursuant to our motion. Okay? I think we should vote on it. Hopefully it will pass. If it passes and legal counsel doesn't want to sign it, that's their prerogative. Okay? I don't think that removes its function because apparently it didn't get signed 5 or 6 years ago either. But it's been law ever since. If you look it up on Muni Code, it's there. Okay? But that's their prerogative. I don't want to have conjecture and speculation on what Ms. Grimes might do or might not do. The same way in regard to the mayor, who I respect tremendously. When she gets this ordinance, if we approve that today, when she gets it on her desk, she has 2 choices, 3 choices, I guess, or 2 choices, I guess. She signs it, and it goes into law. She doesn't sign it, it goes into law, or she vetoes it. 3 choices. But that's her prerogative. We all have prerogatives. That's the beauty of our system. We're the legislative body. We're about to vote on something. Please let us vote on it, Mr. Shelby. Okay, we can look at all the what ifs from here till eternity. Okay, Mr. Miranda and I will get older and older.
No. I'm already old. You're getting old.
But let us please vote on this. Let's not look at all the what ifs. Otherwise, we'll be here another year. Let's just vote on this, and the what ifs will take care of themselves.
I think Ms. Grimes was up. Mr. Grimes was up. I do have a question in relation to your concern and Mr. Shelby's concern, as the chairman.
I wanted to say that the example you used, I don't know, is accurate, since the annual report requirement has been in there since 2015. So it's, the issue that we're dealing with is not black and white. It just isn't. It's gray. And we've done the best job that we can to give you everything that you wanted, especially you, Mr. Dingfelder. We've been over backwards to try to accommodate every request that you've made. And Mr. Carlson, the rip and replace proposal was done to eliminate all the hard feelings and bad feelings from the 2015 creation of the Citizen Review Board. But again, this ordinance requires the cooperation of both the legislative branch and the administrative branch. And I don't know why that has created such a stir, such a controversy with you. You should be proud of it, that you've worked together and that you have a product like this that I can assure you no other Citizen Review Board has. So when you get down to it, the compromise would be the 551, the February proposal.
Can I ask a question?
Mr. Shelby is itching to say something. I want to go to him.
Can we call the
Mr.
question?
Shelby, I'll go to him, and then I'll go to Mr.
We
Carlson.
could be here for another week
Then
arguing
I'm going to read
on.
him in. I said,
Yes.
Mr. Maniscalco hasn't spoken all day.
Yep.
Mr. Citro. You're down in the bullet pit, Dennis. I can't see you now. You got to put that hand up a little bit. We'll get to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're really staying in.
I'm not itching to say anything. I'm just itching. Nothing to say.
I'm just going to run to the restroom. Don't vote. Make it quick.
All right.
But can I?
Mr. Carlson, go ahead. We're going to wheel this in for you.
But yeah, by the way, in terms of schedule, I've got
We're gonna
a guest
listen.
in town who's has only a few months to live by cancer, and I want to spend this afternoon with him, so I'm not going to stay here forever. Despite the sparring back and forth, I want to let Ms. Grimes know and her team know and the public know that I personally appreciate it. I know the community appreciates all the time that she put in to negotiate all these different groups. And I've said this before, but on the day the mayor presented her version a few months ago, Ms. Grimes continued at the mayor's direction, with a meeting with the community to try to modify it and make it better. And I think the time that we've all taken in this is good. I'm disappointed that some things have come up at the last minute, and these issues have all been out there, but some of them have been out there, and we've been trying to deal with them. We should have dealt with them earlier, and we should have hit them head on instead of deferring them maybe. But just a clarifying question, Ms. Grimes, the rip and replace is not in the version that we just made the motion on. Is that correct?
No, it is.
Okay, thank you. You said it is not.
It is. In
It
the
is.
version that Mr. Dingfelder has in his hand, which is the ordinance with the May version of the code.
The rip and
The
replace
one
is
that you
in it.
requested,
It-
it would supersede the 2015 ordinance.
Yeah, and I want to
However-
especially thank you for putting all that in there as
Yeah,
well. Thank you.
however, as I've said, and I said this back in September, and there was a PowerPoint, I remember, I also mentioned the executive order and how that was a follow-up item. This ordinance requires the mayor to issue an executive order authorizing this legislation directing the affairs of the police department. It does. It requires that. And so if she objects to the 7-4 as opposed to the 5-5-1, then that executive order would not be issued, and the provisions in the ordinance dealing with directing the affairs of the police department would not be effective. The ordinance needs that companion executive order. But that companion executive order also replaces and supersedes the 2015 executive order. So with the compromise, 2015 is gone, and it's all replaced with this new legislation.
Mr. Maniscalco, you recognized.
Thank you very much. So basically what's holding this up is who appoints how many members. That's it. Other than that, is this correct? That's really the big difference here, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I've had the pleasure of being on city council since 2015 when the bicycle article came out and all that. And I remember the quote that I said, and it was, it's 2015, but it feels like 1965. And a lot of people didn't like that quote. Fine. So going into that was a call to have the Citizens Review Board, and I remember those meetings. I remember people in the public shouting down council members that we would have to take a recess. I remember Mayor Buckhorn pushing back on how many people appoint how many positions on the board. I remember him calling me. I was in West Tampa one day asking me, what about this, what about that? I remember one afternoon I was changing before a night meeting, and I called the mayor to see if I could meet with him personally about this issue, and he was gracious enough to tell me that my door's open, you can come right over. I've always tried to be a peacemaker, try to find the middle ground to bring people together. And I was able, whether it was me, whether it was other powers that be, Mayor Buckhorn moved a little bit on how many appointments and what happened with the board. So we moved forward with the creation of the board. But fast forward to 2020 until now, 7 meetings, 6 meetings with different changes to what's going to be on the board and what's going to be the makeup and whatnot. I have often said, it's okay to be scared, just don't be afraid. And when it comes to appointing 7 members with by city council members, all 7 of us are trusted by the people and elected by the people. We must have done something right because each of us got enough votes to be put on the city council and have earned the public's trust. What is the problem with having, I mean, we appoint members to other boards and we appoint good people because I see who appoints who and I know many of them and I know deep thought goes into who we appoint to these boards. We appoint good people that we trust, that we know the public can trust. So if this is what's holding everything up, I mean, it's just, it's again, don't be scared. It's okay to be scared, just don't be afraid. The police department is not going to be dismantled. The city is not going to fall apart. What's going to cause things to fall apart is the continued fighting and discussion and back and forth and the mayor and the city council and whatnot. I respect the mayor very, very much. I think she does a very good job. I respect you as chief of staff and the entire legal department. I trust what you have to say. I also trust what the charter has to say. But if this is all that's holding us up and we can put this to a close and find a conclusion and vote this up or down today, just the appointments, I mean, this is so simple. And we can put this to bed and move forward. And that's it. And Councilman Dingfelder, if I understand it, this is the motion that you have made regarding, that's it. We're not talking about subpoena powers and outside legal counsel. We're just talking about the appointments by city council. And I think it's fair. We have 7 elected city council members, 1 mayor. The people elected us like that. That's how it's drawn up in this city. Why can't we just make those same appointments on this board? I've grappled, struggled with this for the last 2 days, trying to find out what's so scary about it that 7 city council members appoint 7 individual people on this board. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand it. What's so scary about it? So I'll stop there. Thank you.
I'm a realist saying we're gonna do what we need to do. I can tell you, Mr. Maniscalco, what it is. It's power. That's what it is. Power. Power and fear, like you said. That's what you have to realize. How government works. Been in the police department. I know how it works. Worked in the city a long time. We were entrusted by the public, and I thought about this all night long. From the phone calls I got from the administration, from the phone calls I got from the ACLU, these people. We are entrusted to put people on boards. People that we feel can do a job, the right job. I don't put anybody on the board who I feel does not know the subject matter, who doesn't understand. But we have to put up or shut up. I don't agree with the whole ordinance. we're intertwining administration in with council's authority to legislate. I have a problem with that. And I'm going to tell you, that's going to come back probably to bite us down the road maybe later on, because you have to have a balance of what it is, and the scales are not really balanced. It's not. It's off balance. But we got to move forward today. The other things we can deal with at another time down the road if we get there. But I think we need to go ahead and put it to bed. There's been a motion on the floor by Mr. Dingfeld. I believe it was seconded by Mr. Carlson, I believe, to move forward with the original last voted motion of a 7-4 Charter Review Board with a 6-1 vote at the last time. Mr. Vieira, I'm going to recognize your hand for the discussion period, and I will end it. This will be it, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Citro hasn't spoken all day, so I guess I will allow
Please,
And
after Councilman Vieira.
Yeah, and I just want to explain my vote again on this. It's the same thing as last time. We're going down a procedure and and again, let's, you know, it's funny that Councilman Dingfelder, our friend, increased my 80% to 99%. That's right, we agree on 99, 95%, whatever it is of issues. On this narrowly tailored issue, my main objection is and continues to be that there is no proper process for members who have served on there for a very long time in terms of reappointment, in terms of, you know, having a proper procedure for their service. That's my objection. In essence, with this ordinance, we're not voting on the whole ordinance because I think 100% of us would either vote for A or B. We're voting on this split in the issues that I'm talking about. You know, we're creating common ground on a lot of these issues, but I fear that if we get something that is going to end up being vetoed or not implemented, then we're going to give up that 99% that's going to be good for that 1 or 5%. That's my concern. But again, I want to be clear. I support this ordinance. I support what's moving forward. But again, just like I said last time, I still put my same rationale in terms of the procedure of the appointments, et cetera, that I think could have consequences that this very collegial body does not intend to have. Thank you.
Ms. Grimes, what is the procedure if we voted in the appointed the new appointments? How would that work? I guess let's clear that up for Mr. Vieira since he's cloudy on that portion. Let's clear that up for him.
If you move forward with the May version, is that what you're asking
Yeah,
me?
7-4, 6-1 vote. How would the appointment work?
Then the mayor would have to decide whether or not she'd be willing to issue an executive order authorizing the directives and requirements in that version.
I think you misunderstood the question, Gina, with all due respect. He's referring to Lewis's concern about how those individual
the
board members would get picked.
The way that it would be handled is vacancies occurred, the new council appointments would be made.
As vacancy occurs.
Right now, it's a 5-4. 5 mayoral appointments, 4 council appointments. Under the new proposal, you're talking about 7-4, because we changed the alternates to full board members. So there's 11 members. Right now, there's only 9. So you have 2 more appointments that you would be able to make. And as vacancies become open, as vacancies occur, then you would be able to make 2 more appointments.
Does that satisfy you, Mr. Vieira?
Again, sorry. It doesn't quite. I still don't think there's enough specificity there. But again, I mean, well, let's take a vote, move on to this thing. Again, we have that 90%, 80%, 99%, whatever it may be threshold. Let's call it up for a
And the
vote.
other thing I did want to mention is, you know, you have 4 board members that you can appoint right now, and under the 551 proposal back from February, you would still get 2 additional appointments. You would still get 2 additional. You would get the NAACP appointment and 1 additional appointment. So you're virtually in the same position. It's just a difference of you end up under the February version that the mayor and the administration supports. You end up with 1 less appointee. 1 less appointee. That's it.
Ms. Citro, and we can wrap this thing up.
One less for me and I'm finished.
Go
He's
ahead.
giving deference? He's
Go
giving
ahead.
deference, okay.
When I read the ordinance, you said it comes out the same when it's 5, 5, and 1, but under the ordinance that's presented here, from what I read, cursory reading real quick, it's 4, 7, but it doesn't specifically say who appoints the person from the NAACP, which is very necessity. It doesn't say specifically it's the mayors, one of the mayors, or one of the councils. Does it say that?
In the 7-4 proposal?
Yes. I don't think it says that.
I believe it says that it's out of the mayors.
The mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So then the mayor has really not 5. She has 1 less. The way it was stated from before.
No,
Let me double check it.
And then my main concern is those 7
But
less.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My main concern of the whole thing is the 7 words on that first paragraph of D. That's my only objection to everything.
Your what?
Those 7 words on D in the first sentence of D.
Subsection
read
D
those
of
again?
of Exhibit A?
I'm not looking at that ordinance. I mean, what you said about the
Oh, yeah,
part of-
the separation of powers?
Yes, ma'am.
Except as otherwise expressly provided.
So, Ms.
That's what it's, you have
Okay.
broad legislative powers except as otherwise expressly provided. And with respect to the police department,
Right.
you do not have legislative powers.
Thank you very much.
Joe, can I read, Charlie, this provision?
Yes.
Do you mind? Okay, it says that, I'm reading D1, it's on the motion that's on the floor, it says the CRB shall hereafter consist of 11 members with 4 voting members appointed by the mayor, comma, one of which shall be a member of the NAACP, and 7 voting members appointed by city council.
Right,
And-
that's right.
And that's the relevant provision that is the only difference the major difference between what's on there and what's on there.
And under the February proposal, it's 551, but we say 551, but it's really 5 for the mayor, 6 for city council. So the difference between May and February is 1 appointee.
Mr.
One
Citro,
appointee.
Mr. Citro, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not filibuster, I promise. A year ago, a life was lost. It did not happen in Tampa.
Thank God.
However, since that horrible death, we, and when I say we, I mean city council, the mayor, the legal department, the police department, the chief of staff, we have made major strides in changing a way of policing, of public safety, of transparency, and the way we do business with our law enforcement and our citizens. Now, I know this council has heard from all its constituents. I know it's heard from PBA. I know it's heard from the NAACP. I know it's heard from legal. We have been barraged. But the one group that we really haven't heard from is the board itself. We now have a clause that says that this board is going to report to us annually, and our city attorney made that statement. In my opinion, the strides that we have made over this year will be exaggerated when the board comes to us and says, here's the things we want to make our job better. If they want subpoena power, let them ask for it. If they want to... We haven't heard from this body. Now, to use a baseball term, we're in the warm-up. We're warming up right now. We're pitching strikes. But until we take action today and face the batter, we don't know whether or not we're going to strike him out or walk him. My fellow council members, I'm asking that we do something today. If some powers whether it be the power of city council or the power of mayor, forgets that with great power comes great responsibility and wants to use that power to fight, I'll deal with that down the road. I want a decision today, and I hope that we can come to a decision today.
Okay,
Ms.
let's do
Richardson.
it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I just wanted, Mr. Citro brought up a good point. I have spoken directly to the CRB members, and I've been present at their meetings to address their questions, and that is a big concern for the CRB, that they feel like they're being talked about but not talked to.
Thank you.
That is a big concern for them. They are mostly supportive of a lot of the things that have been talked about, but are extremely concerned that no one has really sought their input or information from them, since most of them have been doing the job since 2015.
And I
So
hope I can say without, excuse me, Mr. Dingfelder, I hope I can say without fear of any type of reprimand that there are a few I do know, I didn't speak substantively to them, but they have concerns. And again, this council hasn't spoken to them to the best of my knowledge. So we have to start somewhere. And then hear back from this body that we're not only going to help appoint, but listen to annually. Let's do this. Thank you.
All right. It's been a motion on the floor in reference to the 7-4 appointments. That was a 6-1 vote in the previous council on this matter. Mr. Dingfelder has put on the floor. I believe it was Mr. Maniscalco who seconded. Carlson has seconded. We've already had discussion. This matter, I will ask for a roll call. Mr. Dingfelder?
Question for Mr. Dingfelder, a question for the chairman, actually. It's council's choice as to whether you want to have an up or down vote as to whether to read it and put it on for first reading. You haven't had that discussion. Is this, I just want to be clear on
motion
that.
said it was for first reading.
Okay, then that's the case. You have to read it by title. I
And
apologize.
just so there's never any confusion, I'm going to put my initial in the top corner of this document. It says J, and I'm going to do the same thing on the exhibit, because apparently 5 or 6 years ago there was some confusion.
Also make sure that it says at the bottom that it's the 520 draft.
5-20-21V.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grant.
And that's part of your motion, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
That date is part of your motion for
The
first
what?
reading? That date that references which exhibit is part of your motion, is that correct?
Which version?
Yes.
The version in my hand that I just initialed
Is dated.
is
And
dated
initialed.
at the bottom, CRB Code Section 18-8, 5-20-21 with a little V.
That's fine, as long
Okay.
as the record is clear. Thank you.
All right. Oh, I'll move an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, superseding and replacing Ordinance 2015-121, which created Section 18-8 Citizen Review Board for the Tampa Police Department, and adopting a new Section 18-8 creating the Citizens Police Review Board for the Tampa Police Department, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict therewith, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlson. Roll call vote.
Miranda,
No.
Vieira,
For the aforementioned reasons, like last time, I see this as a narrowly tailored issue on the transition period I talked about. Pursuant to that, I support 99%, vote no on the 1%. Thank you.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Yes. Carlson.
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda and Vieira voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 17, 2021 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
You recognize.
First, thanks everybody for putting that together and for all the hard work over the last year. It did take a year, but thank you everybody for doing that. And we still have one more reading, I guess. But as I mentioned earlier, not to get in a lot of details, but my old boss from Singapore has terminal cancer and is in town to see me for a few hours, and I really need to get out to see him if you all don't mind. Is there anything I need to vote on now, or can I leave?
Yes, if I can, Mr. Chairman, 2 points. We just had a question, and Madam Clerk, while it's still fresh in the public and the people's minds, the second reading and adoption public hearing, again, for the record.
It's June 17, 2021 at 9:30 a.m.
Yes, Mr. Carlson, Councilman Carlson, I think what you can do is you can decide what you want to do now on whatever council's choice is, and you have several options with regard to the issue of the charter amendment for the independent council. You can either move it to February as was previously discussed, or you can actually move it sooner. You could even move it sooner than was discussed, or you can not even take up the issue and remove it from the agenda and take it up again whenever council.
I would make a motion to move it to the February workshop discussion.
Second.
Is that a roll call vote?
Roll call, I'm sorry.
Vieira,
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I'm sorry, before this, on the attorney issue, I voiced support for this for many, many times before, and whatnot. I look forward to working with the administration to see what way in which we can implement this, and I think that's very important, but yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Carlson,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
I'm going to excuse myself then.
And again, that date, Madam Clerk, is what?
For the workshop,
Yes.
give me a second. February 24th,
Of 2022.
2022.
Thank you.
Are we going to set a time certain for these?
When did
workshops?
the other issue with regard, there is no time attached to it right now, is that right?
That is correct.
Is there a time that the clerk would recommend based on,
Well, it will be the first item, so we could leave it at 9 a.m.
that would be fine, thank you, if that's acceptable to the maker of the motion. Who just left? By
Yeah,
unan-
as
okay.
the seconder of the motion, yes.
Okay.
Second by Mr. Dingfelder.
For 9 a.m. on the 24th of, what was it, February 20th?
I think we had already
2022,
voted.
thank you.
Oh, no, we didn't vote. We voted? Okay. Punch drunk. What else we got, Mr. Chair?
Item number 55, right? Item number 55.
Looks like Mr. Citro might have to go, and we've already lost Mr. Carlson. You want to defer 55?
Dennis is right there.
I'm up for deferring it.
Could you, Mr. Rojero is online, you may want to
How
inquire.
long is your presentation, sir?
I'm sorry, was that proceed, sir?
How long is your presentation?
It's about 20 minutes, sir.
Can we, Dennis, any harm in us proceeding and deferring this for 2 weeks?
2 weeks?
No, sir, council's pleasure. We are scheduling one-on-one briefings with each of you. Some may have already hit your calendar. So again, it's at your discretion.
All right, I'll move to continue this item 2 weeks.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is that continued to June 3rd?
Yes, ma'am.
Under staff work? Thank you.
Staff reports.
Staff reports?
Mr. Chair, if I may, very, very quickly. Tim, are you back there? Hopefully he's not on the phone. I'll give him 10, 9, 8. Thank you very much. I do, as I explained to you earlier, I do have to leave for a, Tim, I'm sorry that you had to work today. This has been a very, very busy day. I hope that your birthday is filled with joy and love with your family today, and I wish you the happiest of all birthdays.
Yay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I've got to go.
All right. Let's go to information reports. Mr. Vieira, anything?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was, may I go after Councilman Maniscalco?
Ms. Maniscalco.
Thank you.
Nothing today. It was a good meeting. I think we should be proud of ourselves. For what we've done. That's it. Thank you.
And
Mr. Dingfield, Mr.
And
Vieira, what?
I, just really quick, if I may, I motion, and I'll present this offline, city council commendation be presented to Cappy's Pizza for their work in the community.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vieira, second by Mr. Dingfield. All in favor?
Aye. Next, Mr. Jim Crew is retired from the city clerk's office after 26 years service to the city. I move that a commendation be presented to him on May 27th.
Motion by Mr. Vieira, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
I motion to present a Tampa City Council commendation to the Junior League of Tampa Diaper Bank, which will celebrate the amazing milestone of distributing 1 million diapers since the inception of the effort 3 years ago, and that this, and I can do this off-site as well.
Motion by Mr. Vieira.
Diapers.
Take a second.
Diapers and pizza.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
And thereafter, last one,
We'll call
I
Frank
motion,
Redding in
I motion that a city council commendation be presented to Hart's Ruthie Reyes Bruckard, who is retiring after 19 years at Hart, and that said commendation again be presented off-site.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, Mike Suarez, happy birthday.
I'm
to a
really going to
former
call Frank
member.
Reddick now.
The what?
I'm going to call Frank Reddick in a minute now.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Thank you. And by the way, I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for a very productive meeting. Everybody was very, contributing, and we got a lot of points across, and, just wanted to say that. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dingfield.
I'm good today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Miranda.
I have one, sir, if I may. As part of the city's preparation and submission of the annual action plan, a public hearing must be conducted with Tampa City Council to provide the opportunity for citizens to comment on the housing and community development needs for the city. Therefore, I would like to make a motion to indicate the public comment period at a public hearing on June the 3rd, 2021,
Second.
at which time the draft of the City of Tampa's annual action plan will be presented to the Tampa City Council, and a second public hearing with approval and adoption of final plan by the Tampa City Council to be calendared for July 29, 2021.
Motion by Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Dingfield. All in
And I
favor?
Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney, I just wanted to clarify for the motion, you're talking about the CDBG
Yeah.
action plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Shelby, anything from you, sir?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we had an intense meeting in the second half. Some folks are unhappy. Some folks are happy. Like I said in the beginning of the meeting, we're not going to make everybody happy all the time. We don't know what's going to happen with the administration in reference to the vote we made, but all we can do is just hope we can sit back and hope the administration can marinate on it. Like we all said, we support good people to be in place to do things for this city. So I'm hoping that we don't have to get come back to this issue at a particular time. And again, I just thank everybody for giving their thoughts. It was very intense today at some points, but I'm glad that we settled down a little bit and got what we needed to do. And again, we are here to work with the administration, the police department. I've been there, I understand, but certain decisions have to be made at certain times. So again, I thank you all. Motion received and filed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
All they want, but as long as you know, I know, we're gonna get together one day. Baby, baby, ooh, we're gonna get together, baby. Get together, baby.